Solve the riddle while we sit and watch. Written by Gingers_ha. Read by the Viridian Ghost. Chapter 4. A Theory Arises. The dim glow of the slowly rising sun shone through the windows. The beautiful setting of New York unfolded before them like its usual magnificent setting, never failing to take Steve's breath away as he looked over the horizon. Despite having seen it a million times, the view tended to hit differently during a morning after a slightly rainy night. Emerging from the hallway stepped Natasha. She nodded at the man, smiling as she approached the famously amazing coffee machine with her one signature white mug. "Morning," he greeted, opening the fridge to extract an egg and break it into a pan. "Morning," she echoed, yawning as she took a sip from her drink. "Did you sleep well?" the man asked, setting the pan on top of the stove and taking in the sizzling noise. Natasha hummed something beneath her breath, running a hand through her freshly washed hair. "Not really, felt pretty on edge. I got to sleep eventually. Those stupid beds are comfortable." She sighed, humor in her voice. Steve chuckled, snatching a plate from the cupboard and plopping an egg on it as he handed it to her. As Natasha looked at the plate with gratitude, Sam entered the kitchen. "Top the morning to ye," he said in an embarrassedly accurate Irish accent. Natasha didn't say much, not dignifying his phrase with acknowledgement. Sam mumbled something beneath his breath, grabbing a glass and filling it to the brim with orange juice before drinking it down in one. "Surely that'll give you a bad stomach, right?" Steve asked, only briefly looking back from his spot at the stove before resuming his cooking. Sam shrugged, not looking to have much to say about the comment. "Okay," he started after taking another large drink. I've got a theory." "Oh, God help us," Natasha remarked, smiling at the glare that she received in response. "Okay, so you know Peter. His voice is super familiar. Like, really familiar," he said, waiting for Natasha and Cap to ask, which they didn't. Ignoring the silence, he continued, "Remember that one kid from Berlin, the spider one? He reminds me of Peter." Sam elaborated. Natasha and Steve exchanged looks, the woman not having much interaction with the vigilante throughout the fight. "Well, the kid said he was from Queens. Where's Peter from?" Steve asked, somewhat interested in what Sam was implying. "Well, we ran into him while we were staying in that place in Queens, right? So he probably lives there," Natasha answered, curious at the possibility. Sam clapped his hands together, a sense of pride on his face. Hold on. Just because he is from the same place doesn't mean that they're the same person." "You need real evidence," Cap interrupted. Before anyone could say anything, a loud rattling from above startled them all. What was that?" Sam exclaimed, confused at the loud rattling and his other teammates' annoyed faces. As Natasha opened her mouth to explain, she was stopped by some clashing before an eventual thud. The spy cackled in shock, the captain shaking his head with a smile as he stifled a laugh. Sprawled on the floor and loudly groaning was Clint. "What the hell were you doing up there again? We have been here for less than 24 hours and you're in those vents again," Nat questioned, unable to contain her smile as Sam helped her friend up. Cap mouthed the words, "I will explain in a moment," to Sam as he frantically stared around the room in confusion. "I wanted to make sure he didn't change anything or mess with anything up there," he claimed, as if he thought his logic was reasonable. "Nobody cares about your stupid vents," Natasha informed him, Cap shrugging in agreement when Clint looked at him for the truth. After a couple of minutes, they disclosed their theory to Clint, who took interest in the idea of it. You really think so? I mean, I thought it was kind of weird how much time he spent with Peter for him just to be an intern, he asked, folding his arms tight. Should we ask? Sam offered, the four of them sitting at a table to brainstorm their concept. We can't ask that, Cap responded, shaking his head. Oh, I know. Let's ask Spider-Man, and we'll pay attention to, his voice and body language. That way we'll know without being rude, Nat suggested, the rest of them nodding and liking the plan. Is this a good idea, invading the kids' privacy? Steve questioned, each of them taking the idea into account. I hate it when you are righteous, but we aren't really doing anything, right? I mean, we're just asking to meet a hero that some of us fought, and some of us have fought against. Clint reasoned, both of them having fair sides. Eventually, the group decided to stick with it, but what they didn't see was the figure that was perched on the ceiling on the other side of the wall, ears pressed against the wall to listen with his enhanced hearing abilities. Peter smiled, quietly pulling his phone out from his back pocket to inform Stark. A few minutes later, Tony wandered into the living room, walking as casual as ever, almost like he hadn't been walking into a room full of people whom he had fought against. A couple of the team's body language morphed, sharing a knowing look between one another, but what caught his eye was Wanda, speaking to Peter on the sofa. Red magic emerged from her hands, her face one of surprise and delight. Meanwhile, instead of being startled or frightened, Peter seemed to be absolutely mesmerized by the sight, with a painfully large smile going from ear to ear. Hey guys, he greeted, sitting down on the nearest sofa. A couple of different welcomes echoed through the group as Clint emerged from the kitchen with a few beers, handing them out. Tony had to hand it to them. The group wasn't as awkward as he had anticipated. It was, funnily enough, only weird when he was alone with them, aside from Nat. She was strangely okay. Hey Tony, we were thinking... Clint started, leaning forward. The others did the same. The entire group appeared to be all crowded into one huddle around the coffee table. How come we haven't seen your friends from Germany? The spider guy. You haven't said anything about him, and he isn't here, Natasha asked, her face completely genuine, almost scary to those who were aware of the fact that she was simply acting, oblivious. It was easy to forget just how good of a spy she was. Tony's face, similar to Natasha's, didn't falter in the slightest as he sat back. I can ring him and ask him to pop over, if you want to see him, the man offered, seeing Peter slightly turn his head to strain his hearing, the change barely noticeable through his peripheral vision. The others seemed slightly surprised at this unprompted response, having expected the man to be hesitant or to try and muster up an excuse of some kind. But, sort of in an eerie manner, Natasha smiled. Great, it will be fun, she agreed, satisfaction rising within her. I look forward to meeting him again. He's from Queens, right? Like Peter? Cap asked, with an eyebrow raised. A small smile tugged at Tony's lips, impressed at what they had uncovered and what they had recalled. But thankfully, he suppressed it. Yep, he lives with his aunt, but she has to work abroad, hence why he's staying here for the summer, the man answered, careful with his wording. Wow, they're both from Queens? Both pretty young and both, Sam pushed, receiving a slight glare from those who were hoping to remain discreet and oblivious as they could. I never thought of it like that, but yeah, actually Spider-Man is 18, just a super hyper guy, Tony corrected, spotting as the teenager's body language slightly tensed, able to overhear the conversation. Of course, he couldn't let on that he could hear the whispering adults, as he had been speaking to Wanda, but he seemed to do a strangely decent job at hiding it. Usually, the kid was an embarrassingly terrible liar. Like, embarrassingly so. So you'll invite him over? Cap asked, his volume quiet than usual, things still being awkward with the man, though, of course, he knew it would be. Tony waited for a moment, seemingly in thought. I guess I can give him a ring, but no promises, he eventually agreed, breaking the anxious silence. Cap and Sam shared a look. Perhaps they were incorrect, if the man was so normal about inviting the webbed hero over, but the other two seemed to be sure that the man was putting up a facade for the safety of his so-called intern's identity. Satisfied, the team went on to do their own things, while the group chattered away with Wanda speaking about getting to know Peter and things they had discussed. Peter and Tony seemed to be concentrated on going through their phones. The teen grinned widely at his phone, which caught the attention of one or two other people. Before anyone could make a comment, the lift doors opened with a ding, all heads turned in confusion, instantly preparing their signature stances. But the concern was quickly flooded away with the familiar face of Scott Lang, walked in with a smile and a polite wave. Okay, and that is it for Chapter 4 of Solve the Riddle While We Sit and Watch by Gingers_hat. Hope you guys enjoyed this. The last chapter should be up pretty soon. Yeah, that's about it for this one. This is the Viridian Ghost signing off. See you guys next time.